What are you looking for later today? Could this evening's event help you make up your mind?
Yes, it could. I'm looking for more positive comments, certainly regarding levelling up. That's really important to us in the north. Conservative government so far has given a considerable amount of money towards levelling up, led by Boris Johnson, and we want to see that continued and increased. So that's one thing. The other thing we're really concerned about is obviously the economy is top of the agenda. I want to know how each candidate is actually going to pay for what they're suggesting. So whether it be Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss, there is payment at the end of the day. I want to know how that's going to be dealt with, who's going to be responsible for that, and is it going to be lay at the piece of our children and grandchildren. And then lots of other issues, of course, but very important to the people in the north, particularly in places like Salford. We have a limited amount of green belt, and we're very concerned, in fact, that we retain that green belt and that we get support from either of those two candidates to enable us to do that. There's a big fight going on at the moment in Worsley, Boothstown and in Earlham.
So one of your big views is to try and make sure that there isn't so much development in the local area, or just that development should be in different places than where it's proposed?
Yeah, I mean, we believe, in fact, that we ought to develop far more on brownfield sites rather than greenfield sites. Greenfield sites add to the quality of life for local residents. And when you live in an urban area like Salford, it's very important that you've got open spaces that people can breathe some fresh air, have a walk and so on. Within a few minutes of maybe a very built-up area, which we have in Salford.
Now, you're someone who voted Remain in the European Union referendum several years ago, and you've got an interesting dilemma there in that case, because, of course, Rishi Sunak in this race was the original Brexiteer. He voted to leave, but he's getting more support from people who voted Remain, according to the polls, and it's completely vice versa when it comes to Liz Truss. What are you going to be listening for on the Brexit issue?
Right, well, I think as far as Rishi Sunak's concerned, yes, I am concerned that he was obviously Brexiteer. But I rather feel, in fact, that as he's extremely prudent on the economy, in my opinion, that we may well start to hear some voices of support for certain involvement with Europe. So I don't think you can rule that out, and I'd like each candidate to consider at least having some partnership agreement with Europe to help us through this difficult economic situation. I think the inflation that we're now starting to see is partly caused, not wholly, but partly caused by us leaving Europe.
Interesting stuff there. And just finally, the difference between what Conservative members might be thinking versus what people in the wider country are thinking. Do you think this race is focused too closely, too keenly on 160, 180,000 people compared to the entire country?
No, I don't, because what you've got to accept, in fact, is that the Conservative Party covers a very wide area. My own ward, in fact, in Worsley, in Westwood Park, comprises of a large social housing area, adjacent immediately to £1 million plus houses, and I represent both sides of that community. So I think I know what the average person is looking for, and I think there are many Conservatives who also are average Conservative voters as well as Conservative members.